the very beginning, though, there were some weeks, man, where we didn't have a sound guy, and so when it went wrong, you just screamed or did whatever you had to. And I tell you what, I will promise you one thing: we have the most beautiful praise team.
Yes.
I came last Monday when they were practicing to again try out, and they let me click the slides. That was it. They stopped me there, and then they told me that Jordan was far better at it than I am, and so I can't even do that on a Sunday. I mean, so I'm struggling, but it's all right. Anybody here have a good week?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. You know, sometimes we just have to claim it's good even when it's not, right? Just keep on walking and saying it's going to be a good one this time. It's going to be a good one this day. You know, one of the things that I really dislike in life is waiting. So we're going to pass some buckets, and I'm going to jump into this sermon on waiting. And it is one that I struggle with, but I hope that God will use this word to speak to me too, because I'm not a very good waiter. So we're going to pass these buckets, take up tithes and offerings, and if you were kind enough to fill out one of those Connect cards, man, we sure do appreciate it if you would drop that in. So I'm going to pray over our tithes and offerings. Jesus, man, we just thank you so much for the opportunity to give to you, to watch your resources flow through us to build your kingdom. We ask that you bless the gift and the giver. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You know, if we got some new people here, we're a new church, and we're forming our own identity, and hopefully a unique place. I will tell you that you don't have to understand everything about us to belong here. We love you, and you are welcome here regardless of your past, your circumstances, whether you get it. We're not a church that's about Christian karaoke, though. We believe in the presence and the power of God Almighty. And man, they're just rare opportunities that we get to really experience Him in today's fast-paced culture. Again, we're going to talk about waiting this week, and I hate it. Absolutely hate waiting. I hate being late to things. I hate standing in long lines. I mean, I'm the guy at the amusement park where if there's a long line, I don't even want to ride. But if there's no line, I'm like, just keep it running, you know? I mean, all day. And when I got married, it was one of those moments where I learned there was going to be a lot of waiting in my life. Not necessarily because of my wife. She's a saint, all right? But because of my wife's parents and sister. Okay? Now, I love them, okay? But they will force you to do some waiting. I remember our very first Thanksgiving, and we go to Little Rock to spend Thanksgiving Day with her family, and Grandmama has slaved all day to have the meal ready. I think it was like 3. It was like one of those like weird afternoon Thanksgiving time things that don't make sense, right? Like we don't eat at 3 any other day of the week, but we're going to eat at 3 on Thanksgiving. All right, I'm with you. So I don't eat all day, right? Because I'm waiting until 3, right? Because all I've heard is about Grandmama's cooking. All right? The beans and the dressing and the turkey and the ham and the mashed potatoes and the sweet potato casserole and the green bean casserole. And then they make like 18 salads that aren't salads. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like corn salad. That's not a salad. I don't even like salad that much, but you're disgracing salads when you call that a salad. You know, basically anything in a can with mayonnaise is a salad at Thanksgiving. And so I'm pumped though, right? Like I'm ready. I don't eat like I was skinnier then. I know that's hard to imagine, but I was skinnier then. And so it's like 2:30, and I realized that my brother-in-law is gonna like grill a tenderloin. My wife's family is a lot fancier than mine. He's gonna grill a tenderloin, and he doesn't even know where the grill is yet. And I'm like, I don't know how long it takes to grill a tenderloin, but I know it ain't gonna be done in 30 minutes. Right? And so, nobody's in a panic but me. I mean, I'm like, is anyone going to say something to it? Lunch is in 30 minutes, and at this point, I'm not hungry, I'm hangry. Alright? I mean, ask the fat boys in this corner. I eat lunch at 11. Like 10:30, I start calling people like, hey, what are we going to do for lunch today? Fat boys got to eat. You know, like, I mean, I'm ready. So I'm used to 10:30 to 11 being lunch, and I'm holding off till 3. I got my blood sugars level dropping. I mean, I'm about to be in a coma here. Like, and nobody's in a panic but me. We eat at like 6:30 that night. I didn't even know this was possible. Okay? Like, my family is equally equally as bad on the opposite end. If lunch is at 3, at like 1:45, everybody's in line, like staring at the food. Like, is it ready? Because we're hungry. You know? But waiting, man, it's just a part of life. And I can't stand it. I cannot stand it when God has me in a season of my life when I feel like I'm waiting for what He has for me. Man, we all find ourselves in those seasons, though, right? Where we're sitting and we're thinking, I know there's something. I know God has something for me. I just don't see it yet. I'm not experiencing it yet. I'm in this standstill where I feel like I'm between the left and the right, and I just want to be at one or the other. I don't want to wait anymore. I want you to move. I want you to do. I want you to transform me. And the cold hard reality is God is always waiting. Sometimes we're just waiting. And I love this because we've been in this entire series on David. And we're going to pick up 1 Samuel chapter 16, picking up at verse 14, and then we're going to flip over to Acts and read a little bit. But picking this up really quick, it says, Now the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him. Now to be clear where we are kind of chronologically, the book of 1 Samuel is not written in perfect chronological order because it's written from a prophetic standpoint. But chronologically, if you look at the time, David is a shepherd boy, and we know that God has sent the prophet Samuel to go and anoint him to be the next king. So he's going to take Saul's place as king over Israel. Okay? But he's still just shepherd boy. That's all he's doing at this point. And it says, Saul's attendants said to him, See, an evil spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord command his servants here to search for someone who can play the lyre. He will play when the evil spirit from God comes on you, and you will feel better. So Saul said to his attendants, Find someone who will play well and bring him to me. One of the servants answered, I have seen a son of Jesse of Bethlehem who knows how to play the lyre. He is a brave man and a warrior. He speaks well and is a fine-looking man, and the Lord is with him. Then Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, Send me your son David, who is with the sheep. So Jesse took a donkey, loaded it with bread, a skin of wine, and a young goat, and sent them with his son David to Saul. So at this point, David knows that he's going to be king, right? But he's still shepherding, and he's now been upgraded to cheese delivery boy. All right, so things are moving real fast for him, you know? I mean, he's on upward trajectory all day, right? Things are really working for him here. And so David came to Saul and entered his service. Saul liked him very much, and David became one of his armor bearers. And Saul sent word to Jesse saying, Allow David to remain in my service, for I am pleased with him. And so David remains in his service. And I'm going to flip over here to Acts, and we're going to read one more story that I think really illustrates some cool things about waiting. We're in Acts chapter 7. We're going to pick up at verse 23. It says, When Moses was 40 years old, he decided to visit his own people, the Israelites. He saw one of them being mistreated by an Egyptian. So he went to his defense and avenged him by killing the Egyptian. You need Moses as your buddy, right? Like, don't be on the wrong side of Moses, he'll just kill you. Moses thought that his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. The next day, Moses came upon 2 Israelites who were fighting. He tried to reconcile them by saying, Men, you are brothers. Why do you want to hurt each other? But the man who was mistreating the other pushed Moses aside and said, Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday? When Moses heard this, he fled to Midian, where he settled as a foreigner and had 2 sons. After 40, everybody say 40. 40 years had passed. An angel appeared to Moses in the flames of a burning bush in the desert near Mount Sinai. When he saw this, he was amazed. And then he hears the Lord speak, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses trembled with fear and did not dare look. Then the Lord said to him, Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. I have indeed seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their groaning, and have come down to set them free. Now come, I will send you back to Egypt. Let's pray real quick. God, we just thank you so much for your word. We ask that you would anoint the words that are spoken today. God, let them be your words, and let us walk away from here one step closer to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You know, these are these 2 really crazy illustrations when you think about it. We have David here who knows he's going to be king, And Saul at this point has been rejected by God, but he's still king. And so my natural says, well now, God, if Saul isn't good to be king anymore, you should go ahead and move him out of the way and go ahead and let David ascend to the throne. Right? Like, this is David's spot now. God's anointed him. But that's not how God works. He leaves Saul in place. And not only does he do that, but then David has to go work for Saul. He has to go become Saul's musician, if you will, and then his armor bearer. And then you look at this other story, and we have Moses, who does this deed, right? He goes and he kills this Egyptian because he thinks that's how the Israelites are going to realize that God is sending him to free them from the Egyptian bondage. He's like, man, I've got the answer. I'll kill this guy. Nobody's going to do that to my people. But that isn't how it was received at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. And so then Moses leaves and waits for 40 years. 40. If I wait 40 minutes, I'm fired up, right? Y'all remember AOL? Imagine if you had to use AOL today. The frustration that would just engulf your life. I mean, you couldn't handle it, right? The dial-up days are done. We get mad when our phones won't pull up something that we don't even need to know in an instance. We are a society that cannot wait. And I'm top of the list, okay? I mean, I'm right there at the tippy top. But what I've kind of learned throughout life and what I hope God has revealed to me is that while I cannot control the season of my life, I can control my spirit within the season. I don't get to choose where God puts me. And where He puts me isn't always where I want to be. But I get to control my spirit within the season. My attitude within the season. The way that I look at it. The way that I accept it. The way that I'm willing to do the work. We got to learn that our season isn't what always dictates everything. It's our spirit within the season. Because I truly believe this. God is as concerned with the journey as He is the destination. Yes. Our journeys are tough, right? But here's the truth of life. We talk a lot about the ups and we talk a lot about the downs, but most of life is lived in the mundane. Most of life is lived in the in-betweens of the ups and the downs. Most of life is lived in these seasons that just seem like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's really happening. I don't know that anything spectacular is going on in my life, right? You don't get to choose the season, but you do get to choose your spirit within your season. And there are just a handful of things that I hope that we can draw from this word that waiting does. 5 reasons why God sometimes makes us wait. Number 1, waiting reveals our true motives. Well, we don't like that one, right? Waiting reveals our true motives. I remember being a kid, and my grandfather and I were talking one day, and he still wouldn't take credit for it to this day, but he had done something that greatly benefited an entire community, but he had no credit for it. His name wasn't anywhere on it. In fact, he planned a ceremony and gave someone else all the credit for it. And I'm asking, why would you do that? Right? Like, why would you do that? And he told me something that stuck with me that really resonates about our motives in life. And he said, son, you will accomplish far more in your life if you're willing to let someone else take the credit for it. Amen. That's about the truest statement you will ever hear. You will accomplish far more in your life if you will let someone else take the credit for it. But to do that, you really have to understand your motive. Right? You have to really understand, what is it that I'm waiting on? Right? And how precious is it? And how long am I willing to wait 40 years? Am I really willing to stand and grind for 40 years? Am I willing to be David and sit in Saul's service knowing that God's anointed me king? And let Saul take all the credit for what's happening? Am I willing to let someone else take the credit for what's happening around me? Waiting will always reveal your motives. I want to rush because I want instant gratification, right? I don't like to linger. I don't like the way. I don't like the hard times. But the truth is, as we study David's life and as we study all of this, what we see is that he goes from shepherd boy to cheese delivery man to musician playing in the king's court to armor bearer. And as an armor bearer, if you study historically, he would have had access to all of the influential people of his own kingdom. He would have had access to the important meetings. You see, he would have begun to understand what was happening around him. He didn't just jump in as king. He spent a little time waiting because God was preparing him for what was next. God used this moment, these moments in time where David had to sit and let someone else take credit for it. He tested his motives. Why do you really want to be king? Because he anointed David king because David was a man after God's own heart. In that moment of waiting, it would have revealed if he wasn't. In that moment of waiting, he could have easily shown that his motives were impure. And God would have removed him just as he was removing Saul. You see, waiting reveals our true motives. Number 2, and I don't like this one. I'm going to say it real fast, and then I'm going to put an X through it. Waiting builds patience. I don't need any of that. So I don't know why I have to wait on anything. Right? Has anyone here ever had to live with their in-laws, like a married couple ever had to live with their in-laws? Yeah? It'll build some patience, I would say. I've never had to do it. I was hoping somebody else had some great story about it. Apparently nobody does. No, the truth is, patience is hard, man, and that's a part of waiting. But when you go through a season of waiting, man, that patience begins to build in your life. And what happens is, we get to number 3, because we're going to move past patience really quick, because we don't need any of that. Is waiting builds anticipation and appreciation. Right? Why do kids love Christmas so much? Like, why does it seem like such a big deal? Because they have to wait for it a year at a time. Right? It builds, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds. And sometimes, I truly believe this, there are some things in our life that God has to build some anticipation. God's got to build up some anticipation. He uses this time of waiting to reveal our true motives and to build some patience in us, but also He wants to build some anticipation. We talked last week about having some of that dog in you. You know, sometimes waiting builds a little dog in you. You know, because you want it. You're desperate. And it also builds an appreciation. Man, when you get something that you've waited for and that you have worked for and that you have grinded for and that you have sought after and that you have let someone else take the credit for and you've kept your motives in check and you've built your patience, it is sweet when you taste it. It is an awesome feeling. I remember taking the bar exam, man, and I was working at a job that I hated. And it was a Friday afternoon, and any decent employer would let somebody off on the Friday that their bar exam comes out, but I didn't get off that day. In fact, he kept me till 7 on a Friday. I'm not bitter or anything. Just a little. But I kept hitting the refresh button, waiting for the results to post, waiting for them to post, and my employer walks in and he says, "Well, good job." I didn't even get to see it myself. He read my name for me. I'm like, come on, man. I waited 7 years to see my name on the list. I just want to read it for myself. There's some appreciation for those things that build, right? I think that's why having grandkids is so great. I mean, I don't have any, thank God for that. But we'd have a big problem if I did. But I think that's what's so great about it, right? Is there's an appreciation built because, man, you endured raising your kids. And you saw all of that through, and you had all of the patience, and you had all the right motives, and God's like, here's the gift. Now you get to send them home. And you don't have to discipline them. And you don't have to be mean, and you don't have to be the tough guy. Right? There's an appreciation that comes from those things that you have to wait for. That's why moms love their kids more than dads. I like how y'all are all judging me. Right? He doesn't love his kids. Look, I picked my iPad up this morning to bring it to work, and it was filthy. And I was thinking back, I don't let the kids play with the preaching iPad. That's what they call it. It's a preaching iPad. And so Collier and Ben's like a little bitty guy, but those are my two boys, and they were messing with the iPad, and I'm like, no, we don't play with the preaching iPad. And then Ava asked for it, so she got it. All right? And if we're all being honest, moms love their kids more than dads. It's just true. You know, but here's a really tough thing about waiting. I kind of want to settle in on this one. But waiting transforms your character. Man, waiting rubs the edges off. Waiting changes you in good ways. We see this picture of Moses, right? He's young and he's brash and he's moving and he sees his people being suppressed by the Egyptians, and he runs out and kills somebody. He acted in an instant. He wasn't ready. His character wasn't ready to lead God's people out of bondage. His character was what was holding him back. But you see, 40 years later, after moving off and becoming a foreigner and having a couple of kids and grinding his way through life, that God comes to him and he's like, man, you're different today. Your character is different today. Your character is ready to lead today. It had rubbed the edges off of Moses. He was ready now. He was prepared. He was in his moment. He was sitting in his seat, knowing that this was the time. It was the burning bush. Sometimes we pray for the burning bush, right, to speak to us clearly. But unless his character had been transformed, Moses would have never been the leader that he was. Waiting builds our patience, man. Waiting reveals our true motives. Waiting transforms our character. I want to challenge us. How many people in this room would say, I want to change the world around me in some way? Some of you aren't going to move for anything. I got to raise my hand. I don't. I didn't grow up in a church like that. Now the truth is we all do, right? We all want to change the world around us in some way. Waiting is a part of that. And I want this to be a personal challenge to this church. And I believe that we're living this today, but I want us to never forget this, okay? If we really want to change the world, that's a cute saying. I want to change the world around me. I want to change those around me. My personal prayer for each and every individual in this room is that we would begin to understand that if we want to change the world around us, it starts with saying, God, change me.
That's right.
It starts with God, change me. Put it like this. We need a church that says a lot fewer fingers and a lot more thumbs. A lot fewer fingers and a lot more thumbs. It is easy to sit back and say, yeah, but that church over there, that celebrity doesn't act right, or culture says that this is impossible, or culture's ruining church, and it's just not fair, it's just not right. And this is the way that I've always done it, and he doesn't sing the songs that I want him to sing, or I would worship, and the preacher can't preach a lick. Everybody said amen. But I'm telling you, if our prayer would be every morning when we wake up and we look in the mirror and we say, you know what, Holy Spirit, eradicate my selfishness, eradicate my vanity, eradicate all of the sin in my life, what would happen is we would begin to change, and then the culture around us would see that. And what would happen is you would begin to walk into work and people would say, what is different about you? And you would get to say, hey, I had a great weekend. Well, what'd you do? I went to church. When's the last time anyone said what's different about you? When's the last time anyone saw from inside you the Spirit of God oozing from you? You see, but to get to the me's, to get to the change me, not the change them's, to get to the me's, the thumbs, and not the fingers, we've got to change the way we see Jesus. We live in a culture that views Jesus as a non-custodial parent that we visit with every other weekend and on Wednesdays. We live in this world that says, I have to go to church. I have to serve. I'm telling you, if we'll change the way we see Jesus, if we'll begin to understand that you don't visit Jesus and He doesn't visit you, you see He's there all the time. He's with you in every single moment. Then you begin to view waiting a little differently instead of saying, God, where are you? I've been here for 15 minutes. God, it's been 3 weeks. God, it's been 5 years. Where are you? No. You see, He's there. He's with you every single moment. If you want to change the you, to change the world around you, you got to understand who Jesus really is. He didn't just live for 33 years and die on a cross and go in a tomb and rise again and go to heaven and then maybe one day we'll get to experience Him. Or maybe, no. Every power that existed when He walked this earth exists today. He's fully available to you if you just say, Holy Spirit, flood my life and invade me and change me. And then the moments of waiting become moments of productivity. You see, you know what David did when he waited? He worshiped. You know what David did when he waited? He wrote poetry about God. He wrote beautiful things about his Savior. He didn't waste the time waiting for God. He said, I understand that you're here with me all the time. God, change me. Change me. The people in my office are going to hate to hear this because I talk about it too much, but it seriously drives me insane. We as the church love to blame culture for everything. Right? Yeah, well, I get it, okay? The world is a bad place. It's a negative place. I live in it, all right? I spent my Wednesday dealing with a perfectly innocent person that was murdered. I get it. I see all the evil that this world is, face to face. I look at it in the eyes, myself, not through someone else. I live it. I sit with great people. I've done all of that, okay? I've seen all of the brokenness that this world has to offer. I get it. But if church doesn't stop blaming culture, we're never going to change culture. If church doesn't quit saying, hey, they're so wrong and we're so different. No, we're not. We're sinners, just like they are. The difference is we know our Savior and we should be sharing that and saying, He's with you if you'll just accept Him. He's right there in the midst of the storm and the muck and the nasty. God changed me so that I see culture differently. Changed me so that I can learn how to share the good news. You see, what's happened is the reason that culture is whooping church and church isn't whooping culture is because culture does a great job of promoting culture and we come on Sunday and never talk about Jesus again. We don't promote our Jesus, the Savior of the world. We let culture promote everything culture wants to promote while we sit back and watch. God changed me. God, I'll sit here and wait as long as I need to wait until my character is exactly what you need to be. God, I will sit and wait as long as I need to because I want you to change me. Because when you change me, my family's going to change. And when my family changes, my workplace is going to change. And when my workplace changes, their families are going to change. And when all those families begin to change, then this city's going to begin to change. And when this city begins to, that's how it works. It's leave the 99, go to the one. Leave the 99, go to the one. Leave the 99, go to the one. It ain't pretty. It moves slow. But that's our call. That's who we are. God, change me. I'll wait if I have to. But I can promise you this. The moment you start saying God changed me is the moment He's going to start moving you. He's going to start promoting you. He's going to start using you in a way that you've never, ever imagined. Less fingers, more thumbs. last. I could get the praise team back up here. Waiting builds intimacy and dependency on God. Waiting requires time, right? You always see people post on social media, like for an anniversary or whatever. I love you now more than I loved you the day we met, or more than the day we got married, or more than yesterday, or whatever. I used to not understand that. I thought, man, I can't love my wife any more than the day that I married her. Like, I fell in love with my wife 4 years before we got married. 3 years before she would go out with me. All right? I was claiming it for a long time. Waiting. Right? I thought, no, I'm already waiting. Like, I can't love her anymore. But what happens is, the more time we spend together, the more seasons we go through, the more ups and the more downs. That's intimacy. Like sometimes we define intimacy in such a way that it's impossible to ever attain, okay? Like it's not what The Bachelor calls it. I know that's hard to imagine because they look really in love. I get it. You know what intimacy is? You know what dependency is? Time. Time spent with someone draws you into an intimate relationship with them. It draws you into a dependent relationship with them. Going through some stuff with someone draws you in close. Waiting on God until you are intimate and dependent on Him. That's when He's going to unleash you. When you don't say, God, I don't want to be the shepherd, and God, I don't want to be the cheese delivery boy, and God, I don't want to be the harp player, and God, I don't want to be the armor bearer. And instead you say, you know what, God, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tend these sheep like nobody's ever attended them. And God, I'm going to deliver this cheese like nobody's ever seen it. I'm going to put Jimmy John's out of business. And God, I'm going to play that harp like nobody's ever played it. And God, I'm going to be the best armor bearer the world has ever seen. I will wait as long as you need me to. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to write love songs about you because you are the greatest. And you are the most holy. And you are the most righteous. And you are my everything. And I know that when it's your time, it's my time. You see, because power seized isn't real power. It's the great myth of our world that we live in. Power seized isn't real power. Power given, power earned, power waited is real power.
Amen.
The power that comes from an intimate and dependent relationship on the power that says, change me and watch me change the world. We can bow our heads and close our eyes. Man, if there's just anyone in this room that would say, I don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, but I want to know Him today, if you would just slip up your hand. We just want to say a quick prayer with you. If there's anyone in this room that would say, you know, I need some more patience. I need to transform my character. I need to start asking God to change me. I need to be willing to wait until I'm intimate and dependent upon Him. If you would just slip up your hand. I'm going to pray with you. And we're going to stand and let's just worship our God. Before we head out of this place, let's just refuel ourselves so that we can have a great week that says, God, change me. Heavenly Father, we praise you for who you are. We praise you for the gift of life and the gift of freedom that you gave to us, that you earned for us through your death. Your resurrection, God. We lift you up, God, because we know that in the moments of waiting, you are still moving and you are still working, that you are preparing and planning and making a way to use us like never before. God, it is my prayer that every person in this room wakes up every day moving forward and says, God, change me. God, let us be a church. Let us be a community. Let us be a people that says, God, change me. And I firmly and truly and unequivocally believe that you will change the world around us if we would just say, God, change me. We lift you up. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
If faith can move the mountains, let the mountains move. We come with expectation, waiting here for you. Waiting here for you. You're the Lord of all creation, and still you know my heart. You're the author of salvation, love is from the start. Waiting here for you, with our hands lifted high in praise. And it's you we adore, singing waiting here for you. You are everything you promised. Your faithfulness is true. We're desperate for your presence. All we need is you. Waiting here for you, with our hands lifted high in praise. And it's you we adore, singing waiting here for you, with our hands lifted high in praise. And it's you we adore, singing waiting here for
We'll leave you with a song written by David. It says, I waited and waited and waited for God. At last he looked. Finally he listened. He lifted me out of the ditch, pulled me from deep mud. He stood me upon a solid rock to make sure I wouldn't slip. He taught me how to sing the latest God song, the praise song to our God. More and more people are singing this. They enter the mystery, abandoning themselves to God. As he waited, he wrote beautiful words like that, saying, God, change me. And what happens is you wait, and he pulls you up out of the deepest mud, and he sets your feet on the most solid rock you could ever see. I love you guys. Have a fantastic week. Invite someone to be back.